Fesco Emergency Sales. We're here today to talk with Chief Greg Novak of the Anne Arundel County Fire Department. Chief, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm currently the Division Chief of the Operations Support Division, and that includes our fleet services, which includes our ambulances, all our other emergency vehicles as well. I've been with the county about 32 years, coming up on 32 years, and I've been in this role for about 5.5.
Chief, can you tell us why Anne Arundel County chooses to run important emergency vehicles?
Well, we've used them for a number of years, and we've been very satisfied with them over the years. They've held up very well, satisfied with the service we get from the local dealer, and they've been good to us.
Chief, tell us about some of the safety features that are most important to Anne Arundel County.
Well, overall, the unit itself, the crash testing that Horton does, and the safety of the unit and how well it's built, and the airbag system that we use in the rear for the occupants, and the HOP system.
Chief, tell us how the seating positions have changed over time.
Well, when I first started, we started with a bench seat on the side with a couple of lap belts, and actually a very small seat up front over the heater. And we progressed over the years. We added the rear-facing captain seat with the 4-point restraints. For some time we had a CPR seat on the left side, but because we keep the stretcher mounted toward the left, we found out we just didn't have the room, the leg room for it. Plus we use a mechanical CPR device, so we really didn't have the need for the CPR seat. We switched from the bench seat on the side to the captain seat with the 4-point restraint because we just felt it was safer. We noticed that the folks on the bench would slide back and forth on the bench and not be restrained most of the time. Where if they're in the single seat, they're more likely to wear the restraints. And later on, when we removed the CPR seat, we added the fold-down seat up front just in case we have an extra crew member.
Chief, talk to us about the transition from a more traditional ALS stack to a door forward or crash barrier design.
Well, some of our earlier units had a large pass-through compartment up in the forward corner with the door sitting behind that, and we found that our providers would have to get up out of the seat or off the bench to go and retrieve equipment while caring for the patient. So they were less likely to remain seated than restrained. So we decided to go with the door forward design to move to this crash barrier design and keep their equipment and their supplies within reach of them without having to get up out of the seat all the time.
And that includes the lockable drug storage?
Yes, on the back side of the seat, toward the rear of the vehicle, there's a lockable drug storage as well as a mini fridge.
Chief, can you talk to us about some of the smaller changes that you've made over the years to ensure that the provider can stay seated at all times?
Well, probably the biggest one is the seat design, changing to the swiveling seat on the track. They can move the seat around to reach the different items, whether it's the items forward or the items to the rear where the drug lock box is. Also, on top of the counter, we've added a divider about a foot forward to the rear of the cabinet, so if the driver has to brake guard and any supplies laying there won't slide forward and be out of their reach. Also, the I4G panel is now on an angle out from the wall, which makes it more accessible from the seat. And before this unit's placed in service, the EMRC radio used for medical consults will be hanging below that pump out for the I4G panel. So it'll be within the provider's reach.
Chief, I see a number of aftermarket products in the vehicle. Can you tell us about the importance of the Techni-Mount and its location?
Okay, well, over the years we've tried a number of different cardiac monitor brackets, including some that were made in-house, and we were searching for one that was crash rated, which the Techni-Mount is. Over the years we've had the monitor in different locations. We've had it behind the patient's right shoulder over on the side wall, but found that you had to reach across the patient to operate it. And then for a couple of iterations of the unit, it was also mounted toward the back here facing forward. We found that it was cumbersome for the provider to have to turn all the time to view it or make any changes to it. And also, sometimes it wasn't always the best idea for the patient to be able to see it, especially if they knew a little bit about what was going on with the monitor. So it ended up in its current location, and because the Technomount swivels, it's accessible from both seated positions.
And tell us about the benefits of the Stryker power load system.
The main benefit's the safety of our providers. Back injuries are a huge problem in fire departments nationwide, and constantly lifting patients in and out of the unit all day takes a toll over the years. So with the power load, basically the unit does all the lifting for you.
Chief, what was the process over the years to implement these design changes?
Well, over the years, we've maintained a standing committee of EMS providers from our department, both EMS supervisors with a long history of working out in the field as providers and current providers as well. And they would meet occasionally and bring new changes to us that they would like to see, and at times we go to them and with stuff that we see, new stuff in the industry or ideas that we've had based on what we see going on in the field and how we see them operate in the unit, and made suggestions to them. So we work cooperatively to bring the changes that are going to make the unit more useful to them.
We'd like to thank Chief Novak for his time today, as well as the Anne Arundel County Fire Department for entrusting the safety of its personnel to FESCO and Horton Emergency Vehicles, the leaders in quality and safety. We invite you to join us next week for another edition of Safety Sunday.